For last two elections, there were two main topics on stage. One was Tajuddin, then Lasanta, right? And none of the governments were able to prove anything. You're just pointing the finger at an innocent person and say you're corrupt or you're a murderer. People, when they crossed over to President Sirisena, now still Mahinda Rajapaksa is racist, but President Sirisena is not racist. I thought they look for the $18 billion in Uganda. Well, it never happened. And they will also try and find out the 18 Lamborghinis that they promised to bring. I'm supposed to have. And I think also public were expecting for them to go and sell my palace in US, Buckingham Palace in US, and get the money back. SLPP supporters never came to Colombo for violence. If we did come for violence, we should have come ready for that.
Welcome to another episode of Insight. I am Shihar Anis. Today we have here with us a prominent politician, a young politician, and a politician who has been mostly criticized in the social media. And he's none other than former President's son, Namal Rajapaksa, an MP, national organizer of SLPP. Welcome to the show, Namal.
Thank you.
When are you expecting your arrest?
Well, I've been looking forward for that for a very long time. Every time when there's a government change in our country, especially when our camp comes to opposition, these kind of statements have become very common. And I've been arrested twice in 2015, between 2015 and 20, and I'm out on bail. And most of the cases I won in courts. There's another pending High Court indictment for pre-trial, which is supposed to be called next month. But ever since this government also came into power, they have been pointing the finger at us on the same allegations that were there for last 15, 20 years. Some allegations even now, what they're accusing us, we have already won those cases in courts. And the justice minister to everyone openly challenging that, we'll watch what's going to happen to you in next month after, or month next year. And that has been the common practice in Sri Lankan politics, unfortunately, for last couple of years, especially when you're in the opposition.
So, what are the key cases they are basically focusing on under this government?
Well, I thought they look for the $18 billion in Uganda. Well, it never happened. And they will also try and find out the 18 Lamborghinis that they promised to bring. I'm supposed to have. And I think also public were expecting for them to go and sell my palace in US, Buckingham Palace in US, and get the money back. But unfortunately, those things didn't happen because, as you know, it's all fabricated. And themselves had to admit in front of public that they knew that they created it. Or අවබෝධයෙන් බුරු කිව්වා කියන statement එක they have to give at one point. There are few cases going on. Rugby Sevens sponsorship, Carlton Sevens. That's a high court indictment, and I'm sure we will be able to prove ourselves that we haven't done anything wrong. And when it comes to investigation, it all depends on what government wants. To be honest, they investigate people they want. They ignore people they don't want to investigate. We asked for a select committee for 323 containers. Speaker appointed a select committee under the chairmanship of the Justice Minister himself. So you have the Justice Minister, the Police in charge Minister, then the Port and Aviation Minister. In the same committee to investigate about themselves. And that committee never met in Parliament. The only day that was fixed, apparently the chairman has written that he can't make it on that day to postpone it. You see people who are involved in this government are involved in various activities. And I'm not accusing, but this is what we see on media, right? You see some people are on illegal mining in Kuvanagala district. And we got to know, and everyone knows, there was an MP who was arrested, who was supposed to be arrested for cultivating weed illegally. And the police officer got arrested instead of the person who owns the land getting arrested. And that exact honorable member has a previous case that he's on a suspended sentence. But see, overall, they investigate the people they want, and they ignore people who they don't want to.
In other words, do you say it's a selective justice?
Yes, it is. Definitely, it is, and more than ever, the police department has been politicized, unfortunately. So I think for the next government, the biggest challenge for us is to restore the credibility and the good name of the police and the government service, because systematically it has been destroyed. And I believe they do that because they have historical grudge against the police, JVP. Getting back to the history, so the things that they couldn't do at that time by arms, now they want to do within the system. So eventually people will lose faith, people will lose trust. That's what happening now. You can see the gang crime is not stopping. Even last night, as we talk, there was a shooting in Dehivala. So every day you see media, the organized crimes are increasing. The excuse that the government is giving is that those are rival gangs and they are shooting each other. But the dangerous part is not that. Dangerous part is, or the concerning part is that they have been able to carry a weapon freely and shoot and get away. Right. So even if it's a fight between two organized crime groups, they have the freedom to carry a firearm freely, kill and get away. Right. So so these are the areas that the government should be concentrating. But unfortunately, I believe uh, they purposely ignore it. Maybe there are certain organized crime groups backed by the government, which I believe there is, from the way they behave, from the way the government behaves, and the way things are happening. And at the same time, they are on a systematic campaign to destroy the credibility of the judiciary, police, and the government service.
Now you were seen as a child born with uh, you know golden spoon, right? And from 2010 you have been in the parliament. You got your government in the parliament from 2010 to 2015, and you were in
Mhm.
opposition, but that opposition was more powerful than what it is now. And then you had a massive two-third majority in 2021, 2020. How do you feel now from 151 to 3 seats, and there is no state power? How do you
Well,
see now?
well, it's that shows that we have vibrant democracy. That shows that we have given the freedom for people to choose. If we use violence, if we use extra force to control votes, to control ballot, then this result wouldn't be this, right? So which shows that we have given the freedom to people to vote who they want in and out. And at the same time, if you look at the history of Sri Lanka, every government who had two-third majority hasn't last more than 5 years. Starting from Sirima Bandaranaike to
Mm.
JR to Mahinda Rajapaksa to President Sirisena to Gotabaya Rajapaksa to now, if you look at the way they struggle, the current government, I honestly don't think they'll get re-elected as well. So that has been the political practice in Sri Lanka for last so many years, because I think for few reasons. Obviously, high expectations by the public, and it's very difficult to manage a big governments with the expectations of the politician and also the public. But I think we have gone through a roller coaster, and I'm glad that I managed to go through it and face it with a good spirit. And on the process, I've learned a lot. So people think it's much more easy when you're born with to a family of a strong political dynasty, but no,
Mm.
it's not. It probably the hardest thing that can happen to a person, because it gives you a lot of fighting within you to build your own character, because you have been always compared and looked at you by your parents or your uncle or whoever in the past. So it gives you a obviously it gives you advantage to enter, but when you look at surviving the journey, it's not something that is easy. It's something that you need to fight and create your own identity. I mean, if you look at our region, if you look at Gandhis in India, they have been in the opposition for many years now. If you look at Bhutos in Pakistan, they are in the opposition for a longer period now. And same with Nepal. If you look at Chaudhrys in Nepal, so it's a journey, of course, but it's challenging. And I enjoy it, to be honest. I enjoy it, and I've learned a lot throughout. I have learned a lot when I was in the opposition than when I was in power. And I always say this. I'm always thankful to President Sirisena and Vikramasinghe Prime Minister for putting me behind bars for 3 times. Because that taught me what my parents couldn't teach me. So you need to get this in good spirit, and you have to learn throughout the journey. And I think now, obviously, even though we have 3 seats in parliament, as a party, we are getting stronger in the masses. We are regrouping our cadres in rural areas and restructuring our party, and we believe we have been able to cater to the next generation political journey or political dynasty or political ideology. And as a result, I think we'll do very well in coming elections.
Let's come back to your allegations, corruption allegations. Um, uh, One thing, the specific thing was, you were involved in murder of Tajuddin. That's one, and then Lamborghini,
Mhm.
and then people talk about your arrogance when you had the power, right? Um, but now, when you had the power, you did not actually clarify these things,
Yeah.
that why you were not involved, and you didn't clear your name, right? And if you see your social media page, right, Twitter, or whenever you tweet or whenever you post something, if you see, go through the comments,
Yeah.
everything is negative towards you, right? The people remind you what you did during the regime you were in power. I mean, going forward, how are you going to clarify this, and say that I'm not, or how are you
Well,
going to
that's why I
clear
said
your
when
name?
President Andrukumar Dissanayake won that he is going to clear our name, because I hope they will continue investigations and bring justice to bring justice to us as well. Because if you look at Tajuddin, how all started was on a political stage. It was initially pointed at my brother. Then they realized he was not in the country at that time, and his ex girlfriend. And they realized they were not in the country while the investigation is going on. Then they shifted to me after that. So when they realize eventually they'll realize that it has nothing to do with me, then it will shift to someone else. For last two elections, there were two main topics on stage. One was Tajuddin, then Lasante, right? And none of the governments were able to prove anything or to continue investigations. And unfortunately, East attacks also been discussed on the same manner, and yet there is no progress. So when you try to politicize certain things and when you try to use these allegations to gain your political power, it will come back to you. It will hunt you back, because you, on one side, you're not giving justice to the person who has passed away or to their soul, and on the other side, on the other hand, you're just pointing the finger at an innocent person and say you're corrupt or you're a murderer. So I always say, if you have done anything wrong, please investigate, right? And I do agree, when we were in power, we did not address these issues. We should have. I mean, if you look at the way at a rate this government is going to CID about their credibility, we would have done the same thing. And at one point, we never thought about it much, because we thought, it's all fabricated on stage. Because we are used to that kind of politics. I mean, we are a political family, and we have heard these kind of stories long years ago. President Isana, if we went to courts like they did, or if we used the CID and the police like this government does, I'm sure Andukumar Dissanayake wouldn't be the president by now, because among the lies he mentioned about myself, starting from the Lamborghinis, starting from the Uganda money, or even way before that. If we use the CID and try to quiz them like they try to do now, it would have been a different story. And I'm sure eventually people will realize. And today, social media is very powerful, but at the same time, we must understand there are organized campaigns as well that goes on. And some of these accounts are real, some of these accounts are not real. So yes, when you go through it, you see the comment. Uh, but are they actually? I mean, forget about whether that profile is fake or real. Uh, but have they questioned themselves why, even under this government, been 1 year and 4 months, nothing has happened? Because they created the lie, right? So they created it, they established that in the public, and now they are struggling to prove it. So this is what happened when you start to create a story and find evidence for that. This is what happens. And as a result, it will come back and hunt this government again.
Okay. One of the key thing against your party and your family when you were in the power was Namal, you uh, back single nationalism,
Mhm.
and then you basically saw the seeds of racism, especially among Muslims. What do you have to say about it?
I think it was a planned campaign because my father's voter base, if you look at in 2005, he won from the Muslim votes because our majority against Mr. Vikramasinghe was about 200, 250,000. And even if you look at today, our voter base, SLPP, with all this hardship, we won five constituencies in local council which are Muslims, 100% Muslim electorates. We have had a traditional Muslim and Tamil vote for SLPP and the left. If you look at President Prime Minister Sirima Bandaranaike, she has a massive base in northern region, in north part of politics. Unfortunately, certain politicians played it. Certain organizations also did. I'm not blaming anyone, but if you look at how the TNA works, how the certain northern political parties work, and how some of these religious-based Islamic political parties work, it is it is natural. Traditionally, it is natural for certain southern political parties to move with the southern voter base. So eventually, it was portrayed as a racist campaign. But I do agree there were certain incidents that took place, and those were fabricated, or those were planned incidents, not fabricated, planned incidents to make sure that we distance ourselves from the minority votes. And we walked into trap. I do agree that we walked into trap. We would have done the investigation and then and there, bring justice to the people. But exact people who were blamed. See, if you look at I won't mention names, but if you look at two or three key figures that was working with President Rajapaksa, who was supposed to be racist, who was supposed to be single extremist, who was supposed to be instigating Garganagar incident. When they crossed over to President Sirisena, the Muslim vote also crossed over with them. And then President Sirisena campaigning with them on the same stage, they never claimed him as racist. But when they were with Mahinda Rajapaksa is racist because Mahinda Rajapaksa works with them. But the same person or same people or group of people, when they crossed over to President Sirisena, now still Mahinda Rajapaksa is racist, but President Sirisena is not racist. So these are the campaigns that were created to defeat President Rajapaksa's political journey or political party. And as you said earlier correctly, we did not react for certain things, and it was established. But if you look at the history of President Rajapaksa, we have relatives from north, and we have a traditional Muslim vote who always vote with us. When President Premadasa tried to stop Padayatra in 1993 or 1992 at that time, it was Berula Muslims even during Ramazan, fasting time, that who gave lunch, tea, dinner for the people who were walking with President Rajapaksa. So we have a historical relationship with Beruela, we have historical relationship with the Eastern Muslims, Hambantota. But unfortunately, politics is such. When elections are around the corner, people use different strategies, different campaigns.
Two key things are being told. This is globally, even global,
Yeah.
international analysts saying this when it comes to Rajapaksas. One, human rights violation,
Mhm.
especially during towards the end of the war. Second thing, siding with China and antagonizing with the rest of the world. What's the actual stance of your party now?
See, we are not racist, and we were never against Tamils. As I said, I have relatives from Jaffna, and I have a lot of friends from Jaffna, and I do work in Jaffna a lot, even though I don't do politics much with the northern political parties. But we fight a war. We were fighting a war. We fought a war against terrorists. Right? We fought a war against guys who had suicide bombers or who had female carders who eat cyanide if they get caught to police, who had child soldiers. So war is brutal, and you have collateral damage. But we are not saying that, or we are denying the fact that there were organized violations of human rights. But there is collateral damage. And when you fight a war, and unfortunately, certain segment of the society tried to project that as a war against Tamils when we were not fighting against Tamils, when we were fighting against LTT, which is a banned organization in India, in UK, in US. We were we unfortunately we were not treated the same way now they treat Gaza or Israel. If we were treated the same way they treat Israel when Israel is fighting against Hamas in Gaza, we wouldn't have got that allegation, right? If we are treated the same way um, the US is being treated with the Venezuela issue, we wouldn't have got that allegation. But unfortunately, we were treated separate differently. But that's politics. I mean, I do understand that's how the West stands. That's how the West work. When it comes to China, yes, do we do have a very strong bilateral and political party-to-party relationship with Beijing and Communist Party. And why we happen to be in the middle of a geopolitical struggle, unfortunately. But fortunately, China came and backed us to develop the economy. But unfortunately, we were in the middle of a geopolitical struggle. We went to India, and Indian economy and the government of India at that time, during Madam Sonia and Madam Mohan Singh, Prime Minister, was not strong enough to go out of India or reach out because they were just coming out of IMF program, and they were not they were not willing to, but they were not in a position to come and invest on ports, highways, and aviation at that time of India. Then we had to go for our next best option. When China came forward, let's do this. We were like, okay, listen, our first interest is people who vote for us and our own citizens, and we went for that. And unfortunately, it was propaganda. The propaganda was such from the West and certain other countries also that we are getting into a debt trap from China, but we were not. We were paying every single loan on time. And if you look at that judgment they were given to us against us about this bankruptcy incident, they're blaming us for paying the loan. Normally, you get blamed if you don't pay the loan, but now we are being accused for paying a loan. And we had a strategy, we had a plan. If you look at Port City, we had a massive plan to make Sri Lanka as the next financial transaction hub. Aviation, we need to go up to 1 million passenger, 100 million passengers on services. If we really need 15, 20 million tourists coming into the country, we need our road network. We need the road network. We need to expand the highway up to Kandy, Dambulla, Jaffna, from the uh, Katnayaka to Mana to Jaffna. So we need to complete a highway network from Arugambe to be connected from Hambantota. So we got them to invest, and all those projects are not loss-making projects. Some were mismanaged. Mattala Airport mismanaged because once the government changed, they decided to store paddy in that airport rather than promoting it as international airport. So you can't blame the person who built it when he has built it, but next successor couldn't manage it. You can't blame the guy who built it because you built it, we couldn't manage it. But the airport is there, but just a fat matter of managing it. Hambantota Port, they decided to sell without going for a proper strategy. When there was a strategy, when there was a revenue making plan for the port, but then you end up blaming the person who built it. It's like you have your own house. Your father built a house for you, but you're blaming the father for building a big house when you can't manage yourself. It's not fair. But unfortunately, as I said earlier, mm, that has been politics in our part of the world.
Hmm. Now you project yourself as a possible future president. Um, what are your ambition or aims? For Sri Lanka and the policy changes you want to make to for Sri Lanka to become to the next level in the development.
Well, I strongly believe we need to upgrade our system. We are overregulated. And if you look at certain laws and regulations, we are proudly saying we are the best law in the world, but what do we get out of it? Right? We are just slowing down the activities, we are just slowing down the economy. Uh, we are overregulated. So I think, first of all, we need to deregulate ourselves in certain sectors and also regulate in certain areas. I would say, like, for example, forex or crypto or blockchain technology. We need to regulate it. We can't let it go because then it becomes a pyramid system, right? Then it gives you a negative impact. or negative message to the public. So there are sectors we need to regulate. There are sectors we need to deregulate. And I don't believe in overregulation. I strongly believe in freedom. I believe giving freedom to the entrepreneurs, business community, investors to make money. If they make money, they pay more tax. If they may pay more tax, we'll be able to subsidize the agriculture sector. We can be self-sufficient on agriculture. We have to be self-sufficient on agriculture. The crops that we can grow. But at the same time, the fisheries sector, we need to be self-sufficient. In sectors, we can be self-sufficient. At the same time, I believe we need to, if we are looking at a country as a service providing country, we need to look at seriously on the financial services, because we have a strong banking network, and we need to open up for international banks to come and establish branches here. Not that couple of branches or couple of banks we have can survive, or not survive, not that they can cater to the rest of the world, but we need more foreign banks coming in and establishing here. And I believe, strongly believe, Sri Lanka should be a transaction hub or the financial hub for South Asia, which we have the capacity. And aviation sector, definitely we need to go for a management contract, looking at expanding it to around 100 million passengers to be provided, services to be provided. So that will give us 15-20 million in tourism. And again, uh, service sector will increase with supporting services. Logistic, ports, definitely we are on track. It's just that we need to be more bit of a liberal when it comes to shipping industry. And I think we should liberalize the shipping industry. And at the same time, we must also look at expanding Hambantota, get more private sector management into Hambantota port, and work on our transshipments. So deregulation, obviously around with all this, I strongly believe we need to move ahead with UID or individual ID card or digitalization, the citizen services, and the banking sector. So if we can attract at least 50-60% of our grey economy to the banking sector through digitalization, that will give enough cash flow to the banks to do investments or to do or to work with entrepreneurs, even to bring down interest rates. But I think overall, in very short, it has to be services, little bit of manufacturing. Obviously, we do have a good manufacturing sector. Just need to we need to support them to be competitive with the global market. What we don't realize is that we are comparing with our own self or the past or the factory next door, but we don't compare with our competitors. So we need to identify who is our competitors. If we are looking at manufacturing, which product and which market that we are going to get into, and who's our competitor, then make sure that our investors are competitive enough to get into those markets. And to get there, we need to support. The government has to support them. Uh, it's true they make money, but they contribute back to the labor market and also to the government as tax, right? So we need to be competitive in the manufacturing sector. Um, on the other hand, if we have to be a financial service providing hub. And when I say that, don't forget our competitors are going to be Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore.
Mm.
So we need to have freedom of transactions, security, and transparency. So we might have to deregulate certain laws, but we might have to bring certain laws to make sure that we protect the interest of the individual and their information. So overall, if we address these segments, I think we should be able to easily get into a half a trillion economy within 5 to 6 years. But then at the same time, we had to strengthen the local agriculture, and I believe in subsidizing agriculture. I mean, some people doesn't like it. They say no, we shouldn't give anything free, but US is subsidizing agriculture.
Mm.
UK is subsidizing agriculture, but they preach us not to do it. I think we have to be self-sufficient on agriculture, and we have to be competitive with the global pricing, and people have to get good food at affordable rate, and farmers should get a good income. So in order to do that, government must get involved and subsidize the agriculture and the fisheries sector in order to be competitive for the farmer and also to have a good quality product to the consumer. And health sector is something that I believe we have to have a total restructuring. When I say restructuring, I believe in free health, I believe in free education, but at the same time, we have to manage our infrastructure. Just a small example. I mean, if you go to a private clinic, you will have one lab with 10 collecting centers, right? But you go to any government hospital, each government hospital will need one individual lab. So we don't share resources. So if we are to move ahead, go ahead with free health sector, then we need to learn how to manage our resources. Our X-ray machine, scanning machines doesn't work after 4 o'clock. But when you have overload of patients, simple way to do is you request for another machine, but you don't extend your working hours. And government sector has to be converted. The salary structure of the government service, especially the professionals, doctors, lawyers, engineers, it has to be competitive with the private sector. So you cannot have a single platform or single salary scale for all sectors. So you need to be industry specific or professional based salary card. So those changes must happen within our government sector. So when you say cost cutting, we always say, okay, we will lay off 10,000 staff and we will not recruit anymore. We will not give you permits. And that will not save because your leakage is still there. You don't share your resources.
Hmm.
You don't manage your resources properly. So I think first thing to do is your management. So get that professional management into the sector. And in order to do that, you need to treat them professionally. You need to pay them professionally. So once you do those changes, I'm sure this country will move forward very fast.
The port city was aimed to be the international
Yeah.
financial hub, one of the international financial hubs in the region. Um, then until 2015, it really went well. The construction really went well, and then I remember the construction was suspended
Yeah.
on corruption allegations,
Allegations.
and then again it continued, but still it's hanging on. The goal was not achieved.
Yeah.
Right? Why is it? What happened? What was the original
See,
idea about behind the port city?
yeah. So I think first of all, why it got delayed is because of 2015. They stopped it, saying corrupted. Then they realized there is no case against Port City or against us. Because current president clearly said he has checked numbers with him. He made a statement. He has copies of checks that were written into my father's name with the check
President.
numbers, right? Now he's the president. He can go ahead with that. So these were created in the political context, and then they want to prove it in courts. So they stopped it. We had to pay compensation. In order to do that, we didn't have money. We had to give more land to them, more management, more rights, more authority in the port city. Okay, that all is done. Forget about that. What's next? Unfortunately, our administrators doesn't understand the concept of port city. We believe it's an institution or it's an island to create for real estate. No, it's not. It's for financial transactions. Before you look at infrastructure, because basic infrastructure is there, land filling is done, roads are done, storage system is done, electricity is done, water is done. So now you need buildings. So to in order to people to come and invest on buildings, whether it's office space, real estate, education, you need to have volume. So first you need to create volume. So we don't create volume, but we look for investors. So without creating volume, investors will not come because this city is created for financial transactions. So more transaction happens there, more companies register under the port city, more businesses happening within the with the port city regulations, whether it's within the country or outside. The volume will be created only then. Then the infrastructure will come. Then hotels will come. Then real estate will come. Then they'll need more office spaces. So we have to use the reverse mechanism to move forward. We need to first create the volume, then get the investors to come in. But what we do now, including last government from 2020, we look for investors without looking for volume. Real estate developer will not bring clients for their own office. They come as they come as a tenant. The apartment developer will not bring customers with them, right? They might, if you're a global brand, you might have a chain who follows you, but end of the day, they will come only if there is a market for them. So you have to create the market. To create the market, you need to open up the port city. Let people come and open their companies. Let people come and do banking there. If they can get the banking there, if they can get the Port City Developers Bank account there, China Harbor. Their parent company does around $32 billion transactions in our region and the African region. If they bring that account to Port City, that itself is enough to Port City to kickstart. So without understanding the concept of Port City, it's same with Lotus Tower, right? A lot of people think it's there just to show, like Eiffel Tower. It's just there. No, it's a telecommunication cover. It is built for telecommunication, uh, but targeting the Port City and also technological tech startups. So Lotus Tower was supposed to be a hub for tech startups. Unfortunately, today it has become a tourist site. So this is what happened when you don't really understand the concept of why it was built. And when you really, it's more than not that you don't understand it, when you don't want to understand, because you have been criticizing that for a longer time, your conscience doesn't allow you to understand what it was built for. But still you want to develop it. So I saw recently one of the state deputy minister from this government saying Port City is a gold mine as asset. So exact party and the people who said Port City is a waste of money. And they said Sigiriat Kadla gain no Port City ka hadan. So when you say those kind of things and when you look at it in a very negative mind for so many years, now you have to manage it, operate it. You don't put the same effort or heart into it. And that's what's happened in Sri Lanka, unfortunately.
I remember soon after the port city came into operation, there were two allegations against the port city. One was it could be used for money laundering.
Mhm.
That was the this allegation came from the US, and then India was concerned about the airspace. I think these things are dealt with low. I mean, why didn't you look at these aspects when you went to the port city construction?
See, those concerns will be always raised, whether the port city is there or not. If you allow for freedom of transactions, certain organizations will question you. And they do question about the Middle East. They have the same concern about Singapore. They have, they have the same concern about Hong Kong. And they will have the same concern when it comes to Sri Lanka when you open up port city. But it's how you engage with them. And that's what I said, how you build your deregulation and regulating. So when you deregulate certain things, you need to regulate certain things, right? So if the KYC is clear from the delivery receiving end, from the end that the money is coming, receiving end has nothing to do about it. So if we are clear on that, if we are clear on our KYCs, if we have a structured banking system, they will understand. But these concerns will always come. But if you try to make the world happy, your country people will never be happy. So in that you have to decide whether you're going to keep the rest of the world happy, or are we going to actually go forward with our own development. So we decided to go with our own development. Right? Clearly, world was unhappy. But the same thing happened to Middle East at one point. Same thing happened to Singapore at one point. Same thing happened to Hong Kong at one point. They move forward. But end of the day, they are the winners. So I think if Sri Lanka try to be the person who's going to make rest of the world happy but not ourselves, yeah, that's not fair.
Your party, even under your father, right, from 2010 onwards, has been struggling to balance this geopolitical issues, right? Especially a cold war within Sri Lanka. I mean, somebody else is fighting within Sri
Mm.
Lanka, which is unrelated to us for several reasons. And when it comes to Rajapaksas, the name always goes with pro-China.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas I think since the last election has gone several times to India, right? I mean, what's your stance on India and China?
Well, see, Rajapaksas have always become pro Sri Lankans. We are pro Sri Lanka. So that's why West doesn't like us at some time. But yes, we did work very closely with China, as I said earlier, on economic front. But we do work with India very closely, and we have a very strong personal bilateral relationship with India, and we are personally connected to most of the leaders in India. Our party is connected to the Beijing Communist Party very closely. We work with them, but end of the day, our decision making process is based on the interest of Sri Lanka, not with anything else, because we are not emotionally attached. we are politically aligned and economically aligned with these countries, and of course bilaterally we have aligned. And I believe moving forward from now, if you look at a lot of the way the world moves, India has to play a major role in our region, especially when it comes to fighting against extremism. You saw what happened in Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, we were able to take one step back and re-elect a government to democracy rather than getting into violence. Unfortunately, Bangladesh couldn't do it. Nepal couldn't do it. And even now, you see there are racial violence in Bangladesh, even in Nepal, and targeted political victimization in Bangladesh and Nepal, and up to a certain extent in Indonesia as well. Uh, so India has a major role to play in that, becoming the fourth largest economy in the world, obviously, and probably the strongest democracy in the world, one of the strongest democracies in the world, and in being the center of Asia, South Asia, India has to play a major role when it comes to stability in the region and also fighting against extremism. When I say extremism, it's not only religious extremism, it's not Islamic extremism, but all kind of extremism. But at the same time, if you look at what's happening in the western part of the world and how new bilateral and multilateral agreements moving forward, and I think Sri Lanka should look at multilateral agreements as well, not only bilateral.
Mm.
We need to look at multilateral trade agreements moving forward in for next couple of decades. China will play a major role, and I believe if China can work with India on trade, which is happening now, that will be the best thing that will happen to Sri Lanka and to our region. That will be the best thing that can happen to our region and to Sri Lanka as well. So moving forward, obviously our party and myself, our policy has always been pro Sri Lankan, and we will work with any partner, and we will work closely with our neighbors. And as I said earlier, we believe India has a major role to play in our region, and especially it comes to security, economics, stability, and fighting against extremism. China can play a huge role in the Sri Lankan economy, especially becoming trading uh, at the scale they have, and of course the new political alliances they are looking at in our region. So eventually, if Sri Lanka does it right, if we structure foreign policy right, because 10 years or 20 years from now, your country's economy will depend on your foreign policy more than your economic policy. Because foreign policy will open you to new markets, new investors, new trade agreements, multilateral and bilateral, that will help you to strengthen your economy. So that's what I said. In 10 or 20 years from now, your economy will depend on foreign policy because global trade has is shifting now. It's shifting to a different era, different side of the world, and the global leaders are looking at in a different way now. So we have a bigger opportunity in that to become a service providing center. And if we are looking at transshipment, if we are looking at passengers, if we are looking at tourism, we're talking 3 billion market right there.
On foreign policy, Namal, I think your father and as well as your uncle Gotabaya Rajapaksa were seen as appointing relatives and close allies to the key diplomats' positions. What will be different under you if you come to power, and what will be the thrust of your foreign policy?
See, we'll be very open. We will not say one thing to a country and a contradicting statement to another country, and we will not enter into any bilateral or multilateral agreement without informing the parliament and the people of Sri Lanka. Obviously, we will protect certain information. It has to be protected as a state, as a state, not as individual. But we'll be very transparent, and we will be very open to all countries to say what we can do and what we can't do. And at the same time, I think my father's or Mr. Vikramasinghe's generation is very different, where they work closely with a small group of people,
Hmm.
either family or outside. Some parties call it kitchen cabinet, some parties say it's family.
Hmm.
I think our generation is different. So that era is gone now, and we are moving into a new era, and we have to be able to face the challenges that the next generation faces or generation after. Because I believe we need to plan for next 30 years, not for 5 years. Unfortunately, all our political parties have been planning, except for MR, except for Mahinda Rajapaksa, all our policies for 5 years. Even this government, they're
Mm.
looking at, they're actually looking at year by year or month by month, rather than looking at next 20, 30 years changes, what they're going to do, how it's going to be impact, how it will be impacted in the economy or the people of Sri Lanka. So I believe we are young and we need to plan for next 30, 40 years. Whatever decision we make today, we have to make sure that it will not have a negative impact in 20 years time. So we need to work with all countries. We cannot be aligned to anyone. So non-aligned policy will be maintained, but economically we will have partners. Culturally we will have partners, and I think we can strongly work with India, China, even the Buddhist circuit countries like Myanmar or even Taiwan or Vietnam. So we can strongly work with Vietnam, and at the same time we need to have very strong bilateral connection and a personal relationship with the Middle East, because Middle East is going to be the biggest investor for next 10 years or 20 years. And I believe Port City and Sri Lanka has a lot of opportunities for them. And they need a presence in South Asia. They need a presence in South Asia. Uh, on my context, we will not allow any military base to be established in Sri Lanka for a foreign army. Uh, so that will help a lot of countries to win trust and come and invest with us. So whoever in power, whether it's us or someone else, we have to work closely with the Middle East, Asia, and the West. And African market is going to be where our Sri Lankan entrepreneurs going to make money. Where Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, businessmen can make money is going to be the African market, and the government must back it. The government must have strong bilateral relationship with the African leaders and connect that to the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs and take Sri Lankan businessmen and women out of Sri Lanka to Africa to start with. Then they can go to Europe, America, Latin America. It's up to them, but government must intervene, and help to strike deals between nations, with strike deals between our entrepreneurs, our businessmen, and foreign nations. I think that thinking has to come into our foreign policy. If not, it has been always other way around, where rest of the world try to take business from Sri Lanka. So now it's time that Sri Lanka has to take our people out of the country and establish them in rest of the world.
Let's go to 2022 crisis. Aragalaya changed the destiny of these countries, not only the country but also then government, your family,
Mhm.
Gotabaya Rajapaksa's presidency. Everything was changed. What do you have to say about Aragalaya and the way it was, brought forward, and how did it happen? What do you think about the anatomy of this Aragalaya?
When President Donald Trump came into power, he made a clear statement that USAID has been funding on regime change in South Asia, and Sri Lanka is victim of it. And I strongly believe in that. I strongly believe there were outside influence in this incident, or so-called Aragalaya. And same thing happened in Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Nepal. Bangladesh and Nepal and Indonesia. And I think there were two segments in Aragalaya. Three segments actually. One segment was motivated by the outside and cultivated and motivated by outside to go and start this. Then there were certain individuals who genuinely thought, we need a change and we have to go and support this.
There
And
were reasons for
there were enough
the
reasons. There were
reasons for
enough
it.
reasons. Power cuts, fuel queues,
Hmm.
and even power cuts and fuel queues were created. I believe in that because I believe they disrupted the network.
Why do you say that?
If you look at the numbers, the volume of fuel that has been sold or distributed from CPC, the same time of Aragale happened and the year after is less than 50%. Right? So we have given double during Aragale, but still there were queues. But we have only given half of that volume. Even without the QR code, there was no queues. So clearly something went wrong somewhere. Unfortunately, our government couldn't read it at that time. But when it comes to even power generation, there are companies in this country who has taken power purchase agreements for investment, hasn't done anything for last 10 years. They are to be blamed. After MR, not a single megawatt was put into a grid system. But every government gives proposals, take proposals, award contracts for private sector, but none of them deliver. So CEB plan, when they come and show a minister, even this president, they will say, don't worry, we have 500 megawatts coming in next 5 years. They said another 100 will add to the grid next year. Yes, on paper, yes, but on ground, nothing. So there are so-called corporates who are holding into these licenses, but not delivering. So definitely a government must take action on them. I believe in that because I strongly believe in that because that is a national security concern. So there was another segment in Aragalaya who was politically motivated. When President Vikramasinghe became the president, half of Aragalaya was gone home. Not that the problem was solved, right? That is understandable because it's natural for opposition to play politics in such a situation. But did they achieve the result they want? Is a big question to be answered. And if they wanted JVP in power, I don't know. Then it's still not achieved. And I strongly believe we have to have a system upgrade in our administration structure, which I thought JVP might do because they have no resistance from trade unions. Because it was their trade unions who was against education reforms, who was against EB reforms, who was against private sector investment coming in. It was their trade unions. The exact government who were against Adani coming into Sri Lanka as one of the biggest uh, investors in Sri Lankan history, and also he is one of the biggest renewable energy investor in the world. Giving unsolicited was illegal, and they went against it. But now they are given unsolicited 500 megawatts for companies who have never done power purchase, who has never done renewable energy projects.
50 megawatt.
50 megawatt. So at that time they were against the world biggest investor, and today they have gone with companies who has no experience. So I thought they will go into those changes because they have no resistance from their own trade unions, but they're not doing it. So I think eventually we might have to come back and do the changes what the Aragalaya wanted, rather than Aragalaya who depending on the people who they elected.
On May 9th, 2022, the violence created due to clash between Aragalaya and the SLPP supporters, and then followed by strong violence
Mhm.
against SLPP people, which basically force your family to flee from Colombo, and some of you all went to Trinco. Do you regret about it?
See, the violence did not start May 9th. It started in April. They first attacked President Gotabaya's house, 31st of March. Then Kanchan Vijayasekara's house. Then Shehan Semasingha's house. Channa Jayasumana's house. Roshan Ranasingha's Polonnaru residence. So if someone is saying all started because of May 9th, no, it's wrong. It's wrong. So May 9th, SLPP supporters never came to Colombo for violence. If we did come for violence, we should have come ready for that. Our supporters were on their own. They did not have weapons with them. They were not equipped with any form of gear to fight. They just came as they come on a normal day for a May Day or a normal meeting to see President Rajapaksa and say goodbye, right? But it was planned. Some people purposely created violence, right? And first incident took place. Now everyone is saying it happened after certain speeches inside the inside
Temple
temple place, but actual violence started half an hour before that. Half an hour before that, outside temple trees, there was certain incident that took place. So which means there was an organized group who were among our people who came there to create violence. Unfortunately, our supporters became victims of
But
it.
Namal, there were MPs as well, right? Uh, if you go
There
through
were
the
certain
visual
MPs,
videos,
yeah, they went to stop it. They did not want to go and fight with the people who were at Aragalaya side. But when there are people were attacked, I mean, if I'm walking out from here today, if you were attacked, do you expect me to run or to protect you? Right? So when they came out, if the violence have already broken, then they have a responsibility to protect their own people. So it will be, I'm sure it will be proven in courts. Now this case is in
Mm.
courts, and I'm sure it will be proven in courts. But don't forget, the violence started in 31st of March, and then it went up to attacking few member of parliament's residence, and then May 9th happened. So do you honestly believe uh, a non-organized movement can burn 350 plus properties within 6 hours? Not in one location, in different location across Sri Lanka.
But Namal, your government, Rajapaksas were
Mhm.
in power, were in control. You had the intelligence. Why couldn't you find it out what happened on that day?
See, you can ask the same question from Bangladesh. They were richer than us. They did not have economic problem. They lended us $200 million. They lended us $200 million, right? And then you can ask the same question from Nepal. And Bangladesh have a better intelligence than Sri Lanka when it comes to military. Then even Nepal, right? They have one of the some of the biggest billionaires in region is from Nepal, but still they went through the same thing. So once it is planned, when the system is broken, it's very difficult to restructure it back. So I would say the dismantling of our intelligence in 2015 is still not restored the same way before 2015. And I must agree that we did not manage to read the administration failure in CEB, petroleum, and certain ministries. So that led to shortages. That led to queues. So if we have read that part, I think we would have managed it well. And I'm glad that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa did not use the same path as Bangladesh and Nepal to control it. If he have gone on that path, which I'm sure whoever behind it wanted him to follow the same path, Namal Rajapaksa wouldn't be seated here today. So, as I said, we always take decisions for the best interest of our people, of country, and best interest for the country. If we have to take one step back, if we have to resign, go back, we have done that in the past. We have shown that.
Let's talk about your political future. Now, 2024, 2 years back, when the presidential elections was held, it was crystal clear that you were not going to win, but still you contested, right? And there were rumor that the SLPP's candidate will be Damika Perera, a corporate business leader. Why did you contest knowing that you were going to lose?
I believe you have to give leadership to a party when the party needs you, not when you want the party. Unfortunately, most of politicians in our country, they want the party when they want leadership, but they don't give leadership to the party when party needs you. And I strongly believe, even my father, we should give leadership to the party when party needs us. And it was so, as you said, we were supposed to bring Mr. Dhammika Perera, and unfortunately, he didn't want to contest. So I backed off at the last minute. Then we were left with no candidate. Then I thought, when party requested me, I thought, I might as well give leadership because actually that has worked now, and that will pave the way for us moving forward as a party, restructuring ourselves and coming up. And politics is all about winning and losing. You can't win all elections.
What's the role played by another uncle, Basil Rajapaksa, the strategist of
Mhm.
SLPP? Now,
Well, him, Gotabe, my father, they all on very much of advisory level, and they are keenly watching us, how we behave, how we take certain decisions. If they see certain things has to be corrected, they guide us, advise us, but there is no direct involvement at all. And my father strongly believes that I should go on my own, and he should back me rather than him being in front and taking me behind.
now SLFP, Sri Lanka Freedom Party, was seen as Bandar Nayaka's party,
Yeah.
while the SLPP is seen as Rajapaksa's party. Uh, how do you respond to people who say it's a Rajapaksa's party rather than a democratic political party?
Yeah, I mean, it has been the system in our region and also in certain Western countries as well. And if you look at Congress, it's Gandhi's party. If you Pakistan PPP, it's Bhutto's party. And you say UMP, it's JR's Javardhana's and Vikramasinghe's party. Bandar Naik created this party, SLPP, and my father created SLPP. But see, when generations move forward, things will change. It's only the ideology and the policy that will be carried. Today, Bandaranayakas are no more in politics, and Gandhis are in the opposition. PPP is in power, but not in the front line. Same with Vikramasinghe's.
Mm.
There is no, except for one or two individuals, there is no direct link with the Jayawardhanas or Vikramasinghe's in the party. So eventually things will change. But what matters for me is whoever comes in to carry the ideology forward. It doesn't matter whether he's a Rajapaksa, Vikramasinghe, Bandaranaik, Sirisena, Disanaik. It doesn't matter as long as they carry the core values of the party and the ideology of the party.
Uh, some of the crucial decision post Gotabaya Rajapaksa's, resigning resignation. One was not holding the local government election on time.
Yeah,
Second one, holding the parliament presidential election first.
first.
Right? Those two would have changed the current equilibrium very much.
Yes.
Why did the government go on that path?
Well, we wanted, as a party, we requested President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to hold local council elections. But at that time, not that he didn't want to, but then the COVID-19 was there. And then people were looking at a new constitution as well. So there was a question whether to have two elections or just to, go for new constitution directly.
Mm.
And it was delayed. And I strongly believe if we had provincial council elections, Aragalaya wouldn't have happened because that will give us a litmus test where we stand.
Mm.
We will know where we stand as a government and as a family or as individual. And also it will give the opportunity to people to vote and elect whoever they want. And I think that's a mistake we did. Even though
That you also did the same thing under Ranil Vikram as well, because to 2023 is supposed to be the local government election.
yeah, he has a strong excuse because of the financial crisis. But I thought we would have gone. We were the first to go and hand over nominations. Because my father, myself, we don't believe in postponing elections. We believe we have to have elections either on time or before, not after. So I thought having local councils or provincial councils during GR's time would have been ideal for us to test where we stand and also give the opportunity for people to vote. And that will also give us more information from the grassroots because provincial council is all about working with the grassroots. Today, there are 9 governors under the president, appointed by the president, who are spending the same budget that was supposed to be spent by people elected council, right? But today, appointees are doing that, the same thing. And whether you like it or not, with 13th Amendment, with provincial council system, most of the citizen services and citizen services and also entrepreneurship or subsidies are connected with the local council, provincial councils, whether you like it or not. So dismantling that will actually distance you from the masses. So I thought that's one of the key mistakes we did. And also we requested several times for President Vikramasinghe to go for a parliamentary election because we thought that was the best political decision. It might not be the best right decision constitutionally, but the best political. As you said, we look at everything. Our decisions are based on politics. If you have to make, not on personal level, not on personal grounds. So we wanted him to go and have a parliamentary election. So it would have given us some breathing space as a party and for himself. And I'm sure if he had gone for a parliamentary election at that time, he would have been the president by now. But he also decided otherwise. I mean, leaders make decisions. Right? The other day, you can't challenge them.
What's your view on the 13th Amendment? In the event of you coming to power, will you implement it fully with
See,
police and land powers?
so far, 9 presidents who have promised has failed to do that, including current president. Why? What makes you think that the 10th one will give it if 9 has failed to deliver it? So, which is a clear indication there's something wrong somewhere that cannot be implemented.
What's wrong there?
See, I think we need to revisit it because it was brought to us long years ago for a solution, and the solution was maybe it was the right solution at that time, but it didn't work. The crises were not stopped. The terrorism did not stop. Killing did not stop. Continued. Implementation of 13th Amendment never happened. So for until MR came into power, northern elections were never held. So there is no point to having access power or enough power or executive power in your province without having election. So after post MR or pre MR, no elections. So after MR also there is no provincial elections. So I think it's the right time for us to revisit and see what has gone wrong and where. And I strongly believe we cannot have 9 police commissions. Sri Lanka is too small for that. And land powers is anyway vested with the president. With president's consent, provincial council can act on it. But it has become a very politicized tool. But even now, there are provincial lands. Only thing is you send it for the president's approval. That can be done.
Mm.
Not that the chief minister is going to write it under his name. If he's bringing an investor, if the provincial council approves it, I'm sure the president of the country can approve it if it's a good investment. So the main concern is going to be with the police powers. And as I said earlier, we had to think on restructuring the entire police to regain the trust and the credibility of the Sri Lankan police. What's happening now? Unfortunately, it has been heavily politicized. So if you look at every IGP who has been politicized has ended up in remand in the past. So I don't think I want to repeat the same mistake. So let's see how we're going to work on that. But definitely there won't be 9 police commissions. There'll be only one police commission. There won't be any land and police powers. But we will look at in a way that we can cooperate and work on the best interest of the people of each region.
Let's move to local politics or the current politics. The NPP government came up with a massive mandate. What are they missing now?
They are missing willingness,
Willingness to?
work. They don't want to work. They are in their own mindset. They believe what they think is right. They don't want to learn and they don't want to listen. And they want to believe what they think is right. And they believe they have been brought here to victimize Rajapaksas and the opposition and whoever has been there for the last 76 years. That's what I said. What they couldn't do in 88, 89, they are trying to do now. That's why they're victimizing the police. That's why they're victimizing the government service. That's why they're victimizing the corporates. They couldn't do that in 1989, 88, 89. They became victim instead of doing it. That's why they brought Butland report into parliament. So now they want to take back at them. And that's why I said they're not willing to work.
Mm.
Because I mean, if you listen to their speeches when they were in opposition, they have a lot of data in that. There are a lot of, whether it's correct or wrong. Now we look at it, most of the data was wrong.
Mm.
But there are a lot of facts. But today, where they're in power, they say they don't have any facts.
How do you see the government's policy on the economy and the economic recovery and the debt restructuring? Do you see a difference from what it was under Ranil Wickremesinghe and what it was in your manifesto?
See, I think they're confused. They are really confused as to whether to go ahead with their own policy or to continue with IMF. And now, as it is now, they've decided to continue with IMF. But I don't think they have the credibility and the caliber of people to negotiate with IMF like RW does. But they continue as it is. So there is not much of a difference between President Wickremesinghe's policies and the current JVP policies, except for the fact that President Wickremesinghe had a team to negotiate if needed.
Leaving aside politics, what how do you see things in this government and what are the things that have really benefited the country under this government?
Well, I think the way people think, right? So basically, they gave a lot of hope It has failed. People have realized that the way trade unions were handled by JVP has is one of the reasons why countries has gone back. They did not realize in the past. Now they have realized because now we know where it went wrong. And also, I think they want to create a different culture in politics, and it's not working for sure. Yeah, it's not working, but they're trying. So they're trying. So I don't see a big difference from the past governments and this government. To be honest, it's just the fact that the past governments were willing to listen and work, and they are not willing to listen or work.
Last question now. Given the experience for the last 15 years in politics as a parliamentarian, as a minister, as a cabinet minister, what are the mistakes you want to correct and move forward as a party leader?
See, you cannot say certain decisions were taken and those are mistakes because those decisions were taken on the circumstances at that given time. I think it all depend on the situation, the time we govern or time we face challenges. And I believe there were certain decisions that we shouldn't have taken, like President, like Sarath Fonseca's incident. I always say that Sri Bandaranayaka's incident. So I think our government in the future will be zero victimization. We don't believe in that. And I don't say they were victimized because there were enough reasons for that. And I honestly believe that Mr. Fonseca shouldn't have made those statements, and Madam Sri Bandaranayaka shouldn't have behaved in such manner when it comes to his allegations. But I think government must try and keep away from those things at any given time, and also understand the current context and plan for next 20 years or 30 years, not for 5 years. That's the lesson I learned from my father. So one of the reasons why he has done well, and that exact reason is why he's being criticized, is he planned for 30 years, he planned for 40 years, and that's why we grew from 17 billion to 85 billion, and that's why we managed to keep all our numbers single digit: interest rates, unemployment, growth rate up to 7.5%. So the way you handle things, way we handle things, I think in the past certain things we should have been more concerned. We should have given the answer for certain questions, and we thought no, we should buy time. And learning from President Vikram Singh's administration, we should, and President Gotabay's administration, I think we must have elections on time.
Namal Rajapaksa, MP and national organizer of SLPP, thank you very much for your in-depth and insightful answers.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers, for watching inside this episode. We will be back with another episode.